This is Philidor-ish Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Welcome to another episode of Chess Noob Game Reviews, where the goal is to see how a game could have been improved. Now in this game, I played the Vienna Game, and my opponent responded with the Philidor-ish Defense. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I had the white pieces, obviously, so e4, e5, knight c3, the Vienna Game, and my opponent played d6. Now, this structure, if I had developed the knight, the king's knight, would be Philidor's defense. But because this is the Vienna, I call it the Philidor-ish defense. And I've made one previous video on this opening where I called this a bad response to Vienna. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's not too bad. It's quite a solid defense, obviously, quite conservatively. Potentially it sort of blocks in that light square bishop. And it does give white a lot of options. Now, as I played this game, I actually played it on the Chestnut Pro, I realized that I usually just blitzed out d4. Now, I do know that that is the best response according to Stockfish, but it always leads to some troubles a few moves later, which I don't entirely like. And that's simply because after captures, take back with queen, they get to develop their knight with tempo. And then the queen just doesn't seem to have a lot of places to go. So I had a bit of a sort of a review of what are the other options here. And apart from d4, which I said, as I mentioned before, is a very good move, the other options are bishop to c4, which is potentially quite nice, just developing a piece, looking at the f7 square. You can play a Vienna Gambitish type move just with straight f4. Apparently that's quite good, quite winning when you look at the Elite Chess Community database of lower rated games. And g3 is quite good as well, and that sets up a modern type structure within the Vienna, which is actually apparently quite good, though I've not really explored down those lines before. You can, of course, always just develop the other knight to its natural position, and you end up with a two knights Italian type setup, but, boo, you don't play Vienna for the two knights. In this game, I did end up playing d4 because that's my usual, so d4, they're the potential other moves, captures, and of course, now we've got the knight with an attack on the queen. Now here, from previous analysis, I know that queen d3 is best, but I've never really liked that move because black always will have a potential knight attack on the queen. Now, it's not a huge problem because, the queen can, with the knight in this position, the queen can always sort of counterattack with a fork, and then basically the knight is forced straight back onto c6. But, later on, sort of a few moves later in the middle game, that potentially becomes a bit of an issue. So I never really liked putting the queen onto d3. The other moves are onto e3 and also straight back to d1. Each of those have sort of cons as well. On the e3 square, you block in the dark square bishop. Back to d1, I suppose you've basically just lost a move. You lose a point of tempo with the queen undeveloped. So I, in this game, after thinking for about a minute, decided to play a move which I knew was unsound, but I wanted just to see what would happen, which was a4. These are the best moves. Stockfish calls it an inaccuracy, pinning the knight to the king and potentially doubling up with a battery with the bishop. So here they developed the bishop, which was kind of expected. Bishop now, they're going to threaten the bishop, and then so takes, and here I'm forced to move the queen again. Now sort of looking at f7. And here, yeah, this transformation wasn't really that good for me. And yeah, I'm a little bit worse. So according to Stockfish, it's minus 0.3. So at least I gave that a go. And now I know that that isn't the optimal move. Maybe I should try sort of d1 or maybe e3 next time, or maybe I won't go down this pathway. I'll develop the bishop. Here, what I need to make sure is to not get the queen trapped. There are some potential advantages. A queen is in front of the pawns, so looking at that pawn, looking at that pawn. So as long as my queen's not harassed, that potentially still has longer term advantages. Now they bring out their queen, and this is potentially a useful thing because, this pawn is pinned to my king. So I give a defender. They now long castle, which you can see Stockfish calls an inaccuracy because that is pinned, and putting pressure on the pinned piece is often a very good tactic. But they didn't, so that was an inaccuracy. Now I sort of can take away the possibility of that pin and develop my knight. They now sort of bring forward their queen. Maybe they were looking at potential sort of on that sort of a infiltration on the king side. I don't know, but that was a mistake. They really needed to, I think, develop some of their other pieces first, because everything here at the moment is defended. So their queen isn't really a threat, and I can get to push their queen with tempo like that. Now, Stockfish calls that an inaccuracy because it sees that black has hung that pawn on F7. Remember, the queen is looking at those two pawns. However, I thought that rather than the adventurism with the queen capturing the pawn, it would be better for me to develop a piece with tempo, and then I get a choice of where I want to castle. So Stockfish liked that move better, but I think this was still a perfectly good move. Queen now moves out of the way. That's now that the queen's on that side, I decide to long castles. My rook now also sort of has vision on the d file as well, so that looks quite good. They now develop their knight. So now sort of multiple pieces looking there, multiple defenders. This square, there's also, you know, quite contested as well. And so I decided that I'm going to immediately try to resolve that. So knight to d5, an aggressive move. Stockfish doesn't agree with it. You can see Stockfish thinks it causes an eventual problem for me. Well, you know, it's quite balanced, about pretty much 0, 0, 0. I think it's slightly ahead for white, plus 0.1. But Stockfish thought that me just having an improving move would have been better. So a little bit of patience. However, there's something about the psychology here, right? You know, attacking here, no, with tempo on the queen, you know, is the queen even potentially trapped? So I thought that black was probably going to capture. And I thought if they captured that way, it's good for me. And it is. So now I've got an advantage. Black should have captured with the bishop first. And the reason here is now after I take back, this bishop is threatened by the pawn. And, you know, obviously they can't capture with that. And if they capture, they just straight up lose their bishop. So here I thought that ended up quite good for me. Bishop now moves, probably looking at sort of a one move attack, but that doesn't work because I can move my knight. They need it really to bring, I think, the bishop back. So knight jumps forward, now with attack on the bishop. They try to do another one move, no threat, but you know that doesn't work because I can just push that pawn. And now that's both defended and I'll win a bit of tempo. You know, now that's being attacked. Yep, that's fine. Let's just take that bishop because captures, 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 and now I've managed to win a very nice concession. That pawn, the A pawn, has now evaporated. It's no longer there, upper point of material, and I've broken through their A file. So black now has a permanent weakness along that A file, a structural weakness. And as you will see, that becomes very important towards the end of the game where I gain the win. Here, it's about +5. So white is now definitely ahead. Now I knew I was ahead here. So my goal, so yep, attack, move my pieces back, was to see whether or not I could force any trades. So bishop to this spot, that was probably an inaccuracy because queen and rook on the dark squares, they cannot block the dark squares. So now I've got a very nice skewer down that long dark square diagonal. They're going to have to basically give up a rook. So they take a pawn, take the rook, they take back. That's fine. I thought that's really good. I'm definitely up on material now, so I want to force trades. E-file is fully open. I wanted to potentially take control of that E-file. But before that, you know, let's get the king out of that discovered check, take away one of their tactics. I'm not 100% sure what they were aiming for there, but now I'm controlling the E-file. And basically what I'm trying to attack is that E8 square, because that is a absolute fork. So basically they have to take, and I can take back with the queen, and that in fact is mate, the king trapped behind their pawns. So they have to defend that square, and so I kind of expected they'll see it, and they did. So I pushed the pawn, queen now defends. So potentially there's an opportunity to, I was thinking to maybe double up these two rooks along the e file. So that was a tactic I was thinking. But first, let's get the, yep, that's right. Let's try to deflect the queen. The queen now moves here. And in fact, actually, there's a mating net here. It's mate in 8. It's pretty hard to see. I was hoping that if the queen decided to gobble, of course, that would deflect the queen, attack, have to take, and then take, and that would be mate. So no, they saw through that. So with that, they brought the queen here. Apparently that was a better square. That's pretty subtle, I have to say. And now rook to e7. You know, the rooks on the 7th and 2nd ranks are very powerful. So potentially that's a mate threat because check, king here, check, king passed, and then that is a mate. So that is a serious problem. So they're bringing their rook all the way across. And here I wasn't sure what was the best move. Eventually, I play that move, so keeping an eye on that square because potential mate, and also a potential mate down here. But a better move would have been queen to a5. Now, I did consider this move. I saw this move, but I didn't calculate it all the way. And I thought that potentially maybe black could wriggle out of that, but actually they can't because the queen now has checkmate along 2 squares, here and here. If they try to block the check along here, so let's say by blocking this way, well, that is mate. If they try to block the check by moving the queen that way, well, they can sort of delay the agony. That's check here, and then that's a mate. So that, I think, was a mate in 3. I didn't see that move. I ended up playing the queen to this square. Looking for a mate here while keeping vision on the so I wanted to keep vision on the e8 square as well. They moved the king to prevent mate, and now following with my original tactic, now the battery down looking at e8, queen looks at e8, I can now force trades. So they try to do something, there we go. So captures, 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 and queen captures queen with check. We enter an endgame, queen versus bishop, completely winning. I just need to be careful that they don't accidentally, promote one of their pawns, but here it's quite easy to win. So king moves out of the way, captures, let's just promote. Now I sort of calculated, make sure I had enough time. I was pretty sure I had enough time. Don't bother with any of that. That is just too slow. Check, check, king here, and now they opt to resign because next move, that will be mate. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is that as you learn more about a particular opening, for me that's the Vienna, you need to look down some of the less common lines and not just assume that they must be bad for the opponent. I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.